There is no doubt that the global pandemic has hit the cruising industry hard. Many areas of the world have seen a complete halt to cruising over the last 12 months, although there are still some cruises heading out in other areas, particularly Europe and Asia. In this video, I want to look at some of the claims about the death of the cruise industry. It isn't hard to find headlines predicting that cruising is dead, that COVID has killed the cruise industry and it will never recover. In fact, some commentators seem to rejoice in the idea. I suspect that many of those who predict the death of cruising are the same people that have been critical of the cruise industry in the past. Predictions of the death of cruising often go along with comments like floating petri dishes, surely an overworked meme. In fact, it has become such a cliché that in Melbourne, Australia, when some public housing towers were locked down due to COVID outbreaks, the towers were referred to as vertical cruise ships. So, is cruising dead? Well, no, not even now. A few cruise lines have gone bankrupt, but these have mostly been the smaller lines, and the big names have held out. However, simply maintaining a cruise ship is expensive, and keeping them running in the absence of paying passengers is costing large sums of money. According to Cruise Industry News, one of the biggest sources of information on the internet, Carnival Cruise Lines may be losing $1 billion per month. No corporation can sustain losing $1 billion a month indefinitely. However, the predictions are that Carnival has made arrangements to remain liquid, at least until the end of 2021. Assuming that they can start selling tickets to passengers again before the end of the year, the indications are that they will survive. So, the key questions are, firstly, will it be possible to resume cruising by the end of this year? And secondly, will there be enough passengers willing to book cruises? Looking at the first question, I suspect that with the ongoing rollout of the vaccine and the new hygienic measures that most cruise lines are implementing, that it will be safe to resume cruising in 2021, perhaps as early as the middle of the year. There are more details on these measures in the video on COVID and cruising in this channel. But a good summary is that there has been ongoing cruising out of Singapore for several months, and with the new COVID prevention measures in place, some 120,000 passengers have taken cruises out of Singapore without a single COVID-related incident. This is a very encouraging sign that safe cruising is indeed possible even today. And with the added factor of vaccination, meaning that cruisers in future will no longer be susceptible to the virus, cruising will become even safer. So I think that a restart of cruising will indeed be feasible. A harder question is whether governments will be amenable to allowing it to happen. Unfortunately, strict measures seem to be popular with some governments, who seem to feel that a tough image translates to votes. Canada, for instance, has banned all cruise ships carrying 100 or more passengers from its waters all the way up until February 2022, another entire year from the date of this video. But what about the demand for cruises? The surprising answer is that demand is still there, and perhaps that demand is even stronger than you might think. Here are a couple of facts that suggest that there will be no problem with filling ships once cruising does resume. Firstly, the cruise lines are offering advance bookings well into next year, and even into 2023. Apparently, demand for these bookings is quite strong. One example is Oceania's 180-day world cruise. That's right, a 6-month cruise, scheduled for January to July 2023. Oceania is a luxury line, so the prices are not cheap. A suite on this trip can cost up to a couple of $100,000. But despite the length of the cruise and the cost, all tickets were sold on the day they were released. Yes, the entire ship was booked out in less than 24 hours. And what about passengers who have previously had problems with COVID? One example was the Ruby Princess. The cruise ship stranded in Sydney back in March 2020, with hundreds of cases of COVID on board, and an eventual total of 28 deaths. You would think an experience like that might put a passenger off cruising. But apparently, interviews with some of the passengers involved have shown that many of them would be happy to do it again, and some have already booked new trips. So in short, no, I do not think that cruising is dead, despite the claims that some articles make. The demand is there. Governments may delay it, but in the end, cruise ships will sail again.